Good morning. We begin with the second lesson on the poem The Last Ride Together by Robert Browning. Let us look at the summary of the poem, stanza 4. The fourth stanza focuses on Browning's philosophy of the passing nature of life. The narrator begins to let go of what was and begins to enjoy what is. He describes his soul as something out, as smoothing out as he lets go of past hopes. He knows that there is no point of speculating what could have been. Things could be better or worse, and instead he chooses to simply enjoy the moment that they are sharing together. The fourth stanza of The Last Ride Together reflects on the poet's philosophy of life. Browning believes that life is ever changing and that people must not stick to the past but try to move on. As you can see in the very first line of the stanza, the two lovers finally begin on their ride. As they ride, the lover feels his soul smooth itself out, meaning that the feelings that were cramped inside him finally give way to thought. He feels fresh, like as he goes through the wind, like a long, cramped scroll fluttering in the wind. We have another metaphor here. The lover feels himself escape from his past hope of being with his mistress. He has got over it. He questions the use of sticking to life's failures and missed opportunities. People often think about what could have happened had they said things differently or done things differently. He argues that he might have cleared some things but missed some other. He wonders what he would do if she hated him, if the worst had happened to him. So, seeing it as what it is and letting go of the past, he sticks to the present moment, the present where they are happy riding together. Stanza 5. The fifth stanza continues the themes in the fourth, with the narrator contrasting himself with men who strove for other things and those who have failed. He does this to hide his personal anguish over the end of his affair. He accepts his defeat and expresses his hope for a better future in heaven at the end of his life. The philosophical reflection of the poet continues in this stanza. The lover again questions if he is the only one who fails. He has seen all men strive for things they desire, but none who succeeded. As they ride on, he feels his spirit elated. The speaker thinks of the distant regions and cities as they ride on. It shows that he is lost in his own thoughts. Here we need to focus more on the line, the world rushed by on either side. It may indicate that the world is in a rush, but his status hasn't changed much in spite of the lady love's rejection. He is indeed happy. The poet argues that everyone labors for success, yet most face failures. At the end of the work, we often see people achieve much less than what they had hoped for. The vast undone works contrast sharply with the small done. We see people's ordinary present contrasting with their high-flying hopes in the past. Thus the lover justifies his achievement in love. He desired his mistress's love, but has this last right now. This is not a complete failure. It's indeed some achievement. Stanza 6. The sixth stanza presents the philosophical idea that a life of contemplation in love is far better than any pleasures that the material world can provide. This stanza contains many allusions and analogies. Allusions means references to something and analogies means comparison to something, such as comparing the greatest joys of life to a crown that one can reach. It compares the life of a love with that of a statesman and a soldier, who comes down firmly on the idea that the lover's life is superior. Like the past two stanzas of The Last Ride Together, this one also involves the poet's expression of philosophical ideas. The lover again argues that the hand and brain never went perfectly paired, meaning action and thought are not necessarily always the same. People think to do something perfect but end up doing the other way. Likewise, the poet says he has never heard of anyone expressing the true feelings of the heart. He asks, what will or desire ever took the bodily form of reality? They are riding and the lover can see his mistress's bosom heave, meaning rise and fall, as she is breathing. As you may have noticed, here the words are consistent with the implied sensual nature of the poem. The poet then compares his life with that of a statesman and a soldier. A statesman's life can be summed up in just 10 lines. He asks, what a soldier's work achieves if not death and sadness? A soldier is remembered only by a flag on his grave and a small abbey stone in his name, meaning a tombstone that is placed on his grave. Compared to that, he who loves is remembered forever. He therefore says his life as a lover is by far better than theirs. Stanza 7. The seventh and eighth stanzas focus on comparisons of the love to a great poet and later a great sculptor. The narrator describes the talents of these artists, the poet's work being defined by how they create rhyme and rhythm, while the sculptor devotes years to a chunk of rock and carves something spectacular out of it. He later does the same with a composer, stringing notes together. Composer means a music composer. He compares these arts to the years of his life he gave to his love, attempting to create nothing beautiful out of their union. Attempting to create something beautiful out of their union. Now the lover compares his situation to poets. He poses a question before the poets, asking them what all their poems mean. He remarks that the poet's brain beats into rhythm. The speaker further alleges that the poet merely tells what people already feel. The poet finds the beauty in things the best and uses them in poetry, pacing them in rhyme. This is some, or rather much, achievement. a remarkable trait of the poet. But does the poet apply in his own life all that is best for men? Rather, the poet grows poor, sick, and old prematurely. Does he enjoy his own beautiful findings a bit more than the others, like the lover who never wrote a poem? In the text, the phrase turned a rhyme. He concludes writing is a joy for him, better than the poet's museum, and so he writes. Stanza 8. This time the focus shifts to a sculptor and a musician. The speaker says that the sculptor gave 20, which is a score, years to art and became art's slave. The statue the sculptor makes is like Venus, the Roman goddess of beauty, art, and knowledge to him. But to common people like the lover, a mortal girl with flesh and blood holds more charm than the sculptor's creation. Likewise, he says of the music composer that he has spent all his life making notes and nothing else. For his music, he receives some praise from his friends. His music hits the deck in the opera. But as we have seen how musical trends grow outdated, how fashions end, making the musician's success short-lived. The lover considers his life better than them and is content with the ride. Stanza 9. In the 9th stanza, the narrator wonders what fate has in store for them and admits he has no idea what would have transpired had they remained together. He expresses his regret that it has to end here, but admits that there is nothing he can do and chooses to let go, stating that his life with his lover is now as far away from him as heaven. This stanza of the last ride together, with some obscurity, implies a kind of metaphysical reasoning. Achieving everything in this life would leave nothing for the next life. The lover says that it is difficult to know what is best for men, but every man should keep something for the other life. I feel that this is totally opposed to the Christian belief that there is only one life. Anyway, to continue, if the speaker gets his desires all fulfilled and enjoys his supreme bliss in this worldly life, he would not find joy in heaven. Earth being so good, would heaven seem best? That's the question. By having this ride, he feels he has achieved enough and won the garland of victory for now. His failure in love here means success in the other world. He truly believes that he would reunite with his mistress again in heaven. Now, heaven and she are beyond this ride. Stanza 10. The final stanza has him turn his focus back to his lover, as he observes her and notes that she hasn't said anything in a while. He wonders what would happen if they simply rode forever together and this instant they shared was made eternity. That is where the poem ends, on that wistful, actually even hopeful note for an eternity of this moment, without the future apart that awaits them when the ride ends. The poet comes out of his ruminations, meaning his thinking, and observes his mistress. He notes that she has not spoken a word yet. However, her company has been a heavenly bliss for him. Man has always looked upwards in search of heaven in the sky. This heaven is symbolic of the best man can imagine. So, his riding with his mistress is heavenly enough for him on this earth. The lover feels he need not go to heaven if he continues to ride like this with his beloved. He wishes that this very moment could become an eternity, so the last ride together can be forever and ever. That way, this earth would prove to be a heaven for him. Robert Browning published 31 major works of poetry in his life and is considered today to be one of the most important poets of Victorian England. Despite this, during his lifetime, he was heavily overshadowed in fame by his poet wife Elizabeth Barrett. Men and Women and the book-length epic poem The Ring and the Book were the two works that elevated his reputation, that is, raised it to a higher level, and led to him being regarded as one of the defining poets of the era. And today, they remain widely read along with the rest of his work, although many of his earlier works remain fairly obscure. Perhaps his largest influence on pop culture is Stephen King's The Dark Tower, which was inspired by Browning's poem Childe Roland to the Dark Tower Came. That's all for today. With this, we end the second lesson on the last ride together. We will continue with the third lesson tomorrow. Thank you.